grid watching. You want to be able to go out and look at your grid and see, okay, what are these little mini distribution lines that run out to people's houses, usually too small to connect a solar garden to. And then these other big towers and things, and some of the look like regular power lines are actually transmission lines, and they're too big to connect these things to. Where's your substation? What does that look like? The sweet spot is what we call the three-phase. Perfect level of distribution system. The feeder lines is what these are known as. That's where we interconnect our solar gardens. That's going to be Jerry Mariza from United Power. Community-supported arrays. These aren't really solar gardens. These are more like what Dave's doing, where you have on-site load and a bunch of people getting together and crowdfunding that. So we can call that crowdfunding. And I'm hoping Dave will take that one on. Yeah, I think that's going to be most of what we're talking about in the class. I may add a few more sessions in. We're going to be presenting these with probably either AnyMeeting or WebEx, online presentation meeting tools that can handle up to a few hundred users. They're going to be presented across the country. We may have some Colorado-specific units dealing with the specifics of the Excel program and policy. So that is how it's going to work. And with that, I'll open it up to questions from the class. Yes, Cynthia.
Tuition.
Tuition.
That's usually associated with registering and attending classes. And display of commitment.
Right. Well, that's why the commitment, because the key is that this is feeding projects into the Solar Gardens pipeline. So we're not going to charge people money to go to class. This is not one of those education scams that you see so much of these days. This is going to be free for people to get into, and they're actually, hopefully, going to get paid out of this. So it's essentially like a job training program, and what we get out of it is the actual projects. Hopefully, this doesn't mean that we're going to be building all of them ourselves. We're going to find local installers to actually put them up, because we believe in keeping money local. But we want to be the hosting service provider. It's going to be a Solar Gardens Institute program, and it is going to eventually wind up bringing in money that can continue to grow and expand the program. So it's an indirect form of tuition, and it is so it is in a way kind of a loss leader for us. Any other more questions?
Yeah, just with the time, because I was hoping we could start on the county planning process sooner rather than later, or were we holding off enough to make until we're done with this training?
I don't think anybody should wait for the training to do anything. If you have questions, go and ask us. We'll do our best to answer them, and then we're going to put them on the frequently asked questions list so that we can grow that. That's part of sharing of knowledge between people. And maybe we should move. You can do this. We can move it up a little bit.
So is each topic like a week, or what were you thinking?
I was thinking of doing these classes once a week. Probably start them up in a couple weeks here and see how that goes with the intro classes. And then as each person gets their homework, then they can come and report back to see how we've done with that. So this is going to give a little structure to the Solar Gardener program. You know what I left out of here is something really that should go up here a little higher is community organizing. And that includes building your team and subscribers.
Building what, John?
Team.
Building your team. Yes, building your team. Also there's going to be something called Community Solar Day happening November 20th. And we are teaming up with a bunch of other organizations around the country to make that happen. So this is one of the things we're talking about is a community event. And that's really going to be the next big push after that is to see how many of these events we can get going around Colorado and in California, since we have probably a solid half dozen solar gardeners in California now for SB 843. So that's going to be a pretty big push there as well. And we have about a dozen here in Colorado. Yes, Becky?
When is that what is the Solar Day again?
Oh, Community Solar Day, 11/20.
Thanksgiving time.
Just before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yes, Lynn.
Are we going to talk at all about sort of what we need from you, what your organization is providing us?
Yes. What we're going to be helping with is, first off, helping with materials. Videos you can show, brochures you can hand out, these course materials, these FAQs, basically
Access to experts.
Access to experts, all of the sort of marketing and infrastructure, all of the things that can be shared between all groups should be, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel in each town. Certain things you have to do locally, and certain things you can share with the group globally. Anyone else? Lynn?
I guess I mean everything as far as like financing of the project up front, creation of a third-party O&M, escrow account, ownership and liability model, execution of payment collection. I'm just making a big long list of things that I'm expecting from you, and I think when we've talked about it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all in the model of the whole thing.
Right. Well, just send me that list, if you could.
Sure.
Just email it to me.
That's moving out of the Solar Gardener training program into solar panel hosting business functions.
Well, they're really the same, right? SGI, SPH are merging, becoming a B corporation, so that we can, because we're really the same group of people. We've never differentiated into two groups. There was never a cell division, and it's really clear that it's been one group. And in the beginning, when I created this, I always thought of it as a corporation that would be for benefit. And at that time, B corporations were this really odd, bizarre thing that nobody had heard of. And in the last couple of years, they've just exploded across the landscape, and you're hearing about them all over the place. And I've been talking to a lot of people who are either have a B corporation or are starting a B corporation. So these are exactly what you're talking about is the kinds of things that the kinds of tools that we're going to need to provide the solar gardeners with as they go into their programs. And I believe we're very close to seed round finance at this point, so we're going to be able to take this a lot more. We're going to actually be able to pay some of the lawyers and accountants and people that we need to set up the structures that we've been modeling. Is that it? Yes.
We heard that in Maryland, it's, for some reason I don't understand, it's not legal to advertise for subscribers, to find them by saying we want subscribers for this. Are there any such restrictions like that in Colorado that
That's a function of your financing structure. Yeah, now the investors could also be the subscribers or not. You could have a group of people crowdfunding an array that is then providing a power purchase agreement so that you can have low and middle income people paying over time. So I always draw it like this. Investors and subscribers, and this is people who are both. So it's a Venn diagram, if you remember from set theory. I think some of you are old enough to remember new math. This means that the question of whether you can advertise or not is purely depends on what kind of structure you're using. David used something called a private offering. And that, no advertising with that. We're using something called a service contract. Which does not require any securities registration, and also something called a cooperative association, which has various kinds of exemptions to securities law. There's also things called the Regulation D, 503, 504, it's Rule 503, 504. These are SEC type things that allow you to raise a limited amount of funds, possibly in state, and yeah. So you could raise maybe for one of these 1 million, another one 5 million. I don't remember which is which. The co-op allows you to crowdfund. And is he ready?
I have a presentation, yes.
You do. You have it.
No.
Okay. So does that answer your question, somewhat?
I think so. Now, the details of these different models, is that the kind of thing that you would discuss in presentations or classes about solar gardening?
That's right. But class time is up here, and we're ready to move on to our next speaker.
We believe you did right here at 7.
Yeah. Okay. Let me call Gary.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, guys.